80% of people in the UK are unsatisfied with their jobs. Our business has generated over £25 million in the last 5 years. We're going to give you the exact tools that you need to help make yourself as employable as possible. So today we're going to be talking about how to prepare for an interview, how to craft the perfect CV, how to spot a good or bad company to go and work for, the interview process, and how to negotiate a salary. Okay, Code. So, first and foremost, what is the most important first step for people that they should take when they are looking to either start out within their first job or if they're looking to switch jobs or move career?
You know, the most important thing, I think a lot of people, they try and apply to every single job they can find. So they'll jump on a Indeed, a Monster Jobs, these sorts of platforms, and they'll just click apply, click apply, click apply, click apply. And they just apply to absolutely everything. And it's just a scattergun approach that doesn't take any extra effort. It just doesn't. You got to look at the employer as, trying to impress a date to a degree. And if you're laser focused and you just pick one or two, you research that company and then really drill down and find out what their vision, their mission, their culture is, and really try and understand exactly what you think they want, but then also how you'd fit into that jigsaw puzzle.
I think that's massive. The first one for sure, research the company that you're working for. Because at the end of the day, it's a two-way street. People forget that you're employing them as much as they're employing you. And the amount of people that I get turn up to interviews nowadays in a modern society and they've put no effort, and I can just see it. There's zero effort or any inclination as to research or as to understanding who we are, what we need, how we operate as a business. And it just seems lazy to me, because why on earth? We think about it, right? You spend 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. It's 40 hours as standard for most people that you're going to be working, which is pretty much a third of your week, that you're going to be spent with this business. And if you hate this business, or you've even applied for the position without understanding who the business is, what they stand for, their morals, their culture, what they're trying to achieve, there's no wonder that you're going to spend your time in the workplace feeling miserable, lack of motivation, and just downright depressed. Because the reality is, you've not put any time into actually understanding who you're going to be working for. And like you said, it would be like going up to the first girl you see at the bar and asking them to get married without knowing anything about them, without knowing their character, without knowing their personality, and then wondering why after 3 years of marriage that you feel absolutely miserable, because you've not gone through that dating stage and that sort of pre-screening stage of looking at someone or looking at a business that you actually want to spend a massive amount of your life with. You haven't spent the time pre-screening or working out whether it's actually going to be a good fit for you and your future. So again, make sure that you do the research, not only just about what the company does on its website and what it sells or what its services are, but actually ask the questions as to who they are as a company, what their employees are like, what's the age of the team, what's their culture like? Are they actually going to fit with what you want in terms of your working life?
The thing is as well, try and see if there's any other ways that they want people to look or apply for that particular job. So for us, we have a voicemail system where people will make a phone call and it says it all over our job adverts. And it says, look, if you want to be in the priority queue, really, of, being one of our team members, please call the number, and then you'll follow through a simple list of questions, and it's a voicemail. Now, I mean, you might know, but how many people do you think would actually leave a voicemail? Say, one in how many do you think?
Well, I know for us, it's probably like 1 in 10.
Yeah. So you're already, if you just follow something that the company's put out there and you just do even the tiniest bit of research, or that you can see that the company said to do something or requested something like that, you're already massively way ahead of anyone else because you're putting in, 10 times more effort than 90% of the people.
And it's again, and I love this comparison you've done. It's the same as dating. Once you've found a company you like, you've done the research, you've seen that they're a company that you would actually want to work for. It's at that point, then it's on you to make yourself stand out. Again, same in dating, same in relationships, friendships. You have to make the first move and you have to be the one to put yourself out there and make yourself seem as appealing as possible to the employer. So when you're again just looking on these job adverts, you've done your research, you found a company that you actually like. Now you need to stand out from the crowd. And standing out from the crowd isn't going to happen by just sending in a PDF copy of your shit CV that you spent 5 minutes doing that looks the same as everybody else's. You're just wasting your time because the best companies out there are not sifting through shit CVs that all say the same rubbish and the same nonsense. And if you stick around till later on in the video, we are going to do a deep dive into what should be on a good CV and some of the things that you might think sound great, but I can promise you now, as an employer that's sifted through hundreds of CVs, I can tell you the ones that I would look at and just throw straight in the bin.
That's it. I'm going to coin it now. I'm going to say it's the Peacock Principle. That's what we want to be. We want to be and follow the Peacock Principle. Where we want to ruffle feathers, but you want to stand out and be that peacock. And it's important because, and again, one of the other points I would say is, and we'll probably jump into it now, is appearance. It's so critical that you get your appearance right because it's a reflection of how you live in your own life, what respect you'd give to yourself. Have you got clean shoes? Are you coming in with dirty shoes? Have you come in, granted, there's that funny scene in Step Brothers where, they come to work in toilets and they're in tuxedos. So there's an element of logic and you got to be in the right clothes for the job you're applying for. But it's important.
Taking it back a step, like preparing, that could be a really good way to stand out. So if you have found this business that you've researched and you're now preparing for an interview or submitting a CV, take a video. And again, what you've said is massive, where you look presentable. But if you were to record a video on your phone, instead of just sending in an email with a copy of a CV. So how I would structure this, because you need to prepare yourself for the role. So again, we're all about, this whole thing is going to be about how to get employed. So for us, you found a job you found a business that's recruiting for a position that you want. Now, you need to understand the position, look into detail as to what that company is actually looking for. What have they submitted on the job listing that you can use as a way to make yourself stand out using the Peacock Principle, if that's what you want to call it. So if it's a marketing position, now marketing usually requires a lot of, it's usually quite like an extroverted position because you need to be quite outgoing. You need to be able to come up with ideas. You need to be able to draw attention. Marketing is all about bringing eyeballs to your brand and generating leads. So if it's a marketing position, what better way would be than to create a video for that role, understand what they're looking for, and then my biggest advice in preparation for that would be standing out by doing a video and then also making or adding some value to the business that you're looking to get a job with by doing a free bit of marketing for them. Because again, if somebody was to send, and just picture this, right? You've got 100 people, 90% are going to send a PDF CV.
See?
5 of them might put a call in. In fact, I'd say, it might even be less than that. 5 of them might put a call in. 3 of them might actually sort of turn up and sort of hand a CV in person potentially. And then the final 2 would do something like this, which is create a video, add some value, create some advice, create some marketing content for free. And I know people hate doing things for free nowadays, but again, this is your dream job. The reality is 80% of people, as we said at the start, hate their job and they hate their current career. And they're not going to get their dream job by sending a copy of a CV to a job advert. It's just not going to happen. So be the difference. If you want that dream job, be the 2 in 100. Be that small margin of people that are going to create a video, give them the content, and give them the value for free, because it's a short-term pain for a long-term gain, and you'll find yourself that the chances of you landing a job will increase, 1,000% doing stuff like that.
Peacock Principle. I mean, there's a story, to be fair, about someone who they really wanted to be a journalist, I think it was, or something along those lines. And I mean, probably it shows you all the stories. They wanted to work for the BBC, but anyway. They actually camped outside the BBC for about a week, waiting for this decision maker on who, employs people. They tried sending CVs. I think they posted it, and then literally got to the point where they were camping out, outside the BBC. And this is in England. So, fair play to them. And then day one, kept running up to the person, can I get the job? Here's my CV. And it was like, yeah. And day 2, day 3, day 4. And eventually, on that final day, the guy's gone, look, if you come in for just like a week and you get your tent outside of that building, we'll give you a week's, trial. We're not going to pay you, but you can have a week's trial. And lo and behold, they got the job. And it shows you, and that was her dream job. And she was laser focused and did everything in her power to try and get that job, and she got it. This is a level of consistency and persistence that you need to have. Do you know what? I'll start with the things that employers look at when they see a CV, and just, this is real, I'll be honest. All we care about when we see a CV is your working history. So currently what experience you've got and where you've worked before. And really all we're looking at is, have you flitted around? Have you spent the last 2 years in 6 different jobs, which basically shows no dedication or consistency to the places that you're working? Because again, remember, when employers are bringing new people into the team, it's a massive investment. It's a massive time investment for people. And sometimes, even if they're using agency, for example, and they're paying 10, 15, 20% of your salary, and if you're being paid 40 grand a year, that's £8,000 that they've paid to bring you into the team. So they need to be damn sure that they're going to get a return on that investment. Now, that might seem unfair to people, but the reality is businesses are very black and white, pounds and pence. And if they've spent £8,000 on you as a person, like I said, they need to be certain that you are not going to up and leave in the first 2 months or at the first sign of trouble or pain, let's say, within the business. So understand that employing you is a big time investment. So employers will be looking at your employment history. And if you're flitting around from place to place every 5 minutes and you can't keep a job down, it's a massive red flag. And the next big thing really, and the real only thing is that they look at who you are as a person, which is why the DISC review is actually massively helpful. So they can understand who you are and whether you fit into their team. Hobbies and interests are massive. And please be authentic with this, because most people can see through this nonsense bullshit of, I like to spend time with my friends, I like playing sport, and I like traveling on holiday. Every human on planet Earth likes spending time with their friends and likes going on holiday. So it's just an absolute asinine thing to stick on a CV. It's like saying, oh, I like breathing, I do. I like food, water, and breathing. That's great. They're my big hobbies and interests. You just sound boring and you sound like there's no substance to who you are. So be authentic with it and just say, whatever it is. If you love comic books, let's say you're massively into comic books, drill down on it and say about who you are, that you go to Comic-Con and you love Marvel and that you're a big fan, and put some photos in. If you love playing sport, which sport, for how long have you played it? If you like doing nothing and you really have no hobbies or interests, then I think you need to, before looking for a job, I think you need to go and find something to, go and enjoy outside of work, because what's the point in going to work if you've got nothing to go out and enjoy? But
make sure that you're drilling down on those two things.
A critical one as well. When people have had jobs in the past, and then you see there's a gap, the worst thing to do is to just leave the gap blank. You're better explaining why there was a job. If you can, maybe you can't, maybe it's, family or something serious has happened you don't want to go into, but try and just put a line, just say, I understand, I didn't have a job, between this period, but I was doing X, I was doing Y. And employers will look at that and go, you know what, like actually, yeah, because, I can empathize with that or whatever it might be. But if you've got it blank and we see gaps, you can think, oh God, what was happening there? Or even the other thing you can do is just lie.
It leads to the worst assumption is the reality.
Yeah,
because you'd look at the gap and go, were they a drug addict and homeless for the last 2 years? Now, obviously, that's more than likely not the case. But if you haven't actually put a reason as to why the gap's there, because it could be that you were looking after a family member.
Yeah.
It could be that
made redundant or something.
Again, being too honest, and to be honest, a bit of a red flag for employers. And I hate to say it, but it is true. If you were to put on there that I really struggled with stress or I struggled with my mental health, and look, I don't want to sort of say that, in a perfect world, people shouldn't judge and make assumptions. But the reality is, if you've put that on your CV that I had to take a 2-year sabbatical because I was upset or struggled with my mental health, most employers are going to go big red X and sort of say, sorry, but I'm not bringing that into my business. So again, because the likelihood is if it happens again, and I go back to what I'd said with the time investment and the money and the monetary investment that people are making into employing you, and then all of a sudden your likelihood of going, do you know what, I'm really stressed, I'm really anxious, and I need time off. Now, as people within businesses, we're all emotional beings and we all look out for each other. Or in the right business and with a business with a good culture, we all want to help each other out and we all care about the people that we work with. Absolutely. Unfortunately, businesses do not give a fuck at all. A business is black and white, pounds and pence, money in, money out. If I decided to have 2 weeks off, 2 months off, 2 years off because of issues with my mental health, the business would be gone. It wouldn't exist. And that applies to any business on planet Earth. The business is unfeeling and it needs to be fed. It needs to have the money in so it can pay the bills that are going out. And if it doesn't have the money in to pay the bills, the business goes into administration and it basically falls in and everyone loses the job.
Yeah. The other thing as well which is another really big one, and it does get a lot of attention, but not that many people do it. And it's just the layout of the CV. Like a lot of people just have, bold text, like a paragraph. This is my work. This is my education. This is this. But I found it a lot more in the marketing roles because they're probably just more creative. That you look at the CV and they've got like a nice banner on. There's a bit of colour on, bit of black and white in, red and yellow and all that jazz. But it's nice. But you're looking at the CV and you think, oh, that looks like something I'd want to read. Some positions you might want to put your picture of yourself on as well. That I found that a lot more with marketing roles, but no reason why you don't want to just put a photo of yourself. Just helps people see who you are.
100%. Read the room, like you said. If you're looking for a job in law or to become a solicitor, you want to go with a more professional suit and tie look, very professional. And if you were to do a video, again, it would be the same sort of energy. But if you're looking for a fun marketing role, again, you can use fun colors and fun videos and things like that. So, just be wise with what you're doing to attract the person. Again, same in dating, you've got to know your audience, and that's important in sales, important in marketing, important in relationships. Just another quick few ones on the CV. Generally, take out all this nonsense about I work great in a team or on my own. I am extremely hardworking. I always meet deadlines. I am always on time and punctual to my work. I am driven and hardworking. It's like, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Really, give it a rest. You're all saying the same thing. It's like Eminem 8 Mile. You're saying the same thing he said. You're not standing out. You're just copy and pasting nonsense. And it just looks genuinely like you've gone onto Google and just gone CV template. and then just gone, well, that'll do, stuck your name on it with your job history, and then just sent it in. And then you're wondering why you're still working at McDonald's. And the reality is because no one else wants to fucking hire you, because you're boring and you've not stood out and you've put zero effort in. And if you're going to put zero effort into making yourself stand out in the CV or in the job application process, you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to get a good job because you'll be overlooked by everyone. And then it kills me because people then complain and say, all the good jobs are taken. All the good jobs, there's no good jobs left. Yeah, because you can't get them, because people think you're an idiot, or they think that you're not putting any effort into actually getting the good jobs. You've just sent them a CV and then they haven't come back to you as if you're God's gift and you deserve the job role of a lifetime just because you've sent them a shit CV on an email one time. Instead of, again, the example like that lady who stood outside or camped outside the BBC for a week. That's what it takes. That's the level it takes to get a good job. And if not, then I'm sorry to say, but you're going to spend a third of your life working in a shit job that you hate. Facts.
Grades are not as important as you think as well. It's one of the last things, if even at all, we would look at. If someone's, I got shit grades. Granted, in this job, that probably didn't really matter as much. But grades are you're told at school, and obviously you need to try at school, but like it's not the actual grade that's important. It's the work that you've had to put in to try and get the grade.
Yeah, I massively agree with that. I'm glad you added it in because especially in a modern day now with IT being where it is, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when we didn't have computers to Google the answer to everything, people needed to have the confidence that you could retain information. So really all grades were back in the day was your ability to retain the information that you were taught at school. So if you had a D or something, and really what that's saying to people is, well, you were told information for 3 years and the retention on that information equaled a D, which is pretty piss poor. Whereas now, whereas now, you've got Google, you've got AI, you've got phones. So for me, the only grades that are genuinely important nowadays is English, because your ability to communicate, and you both written and verbally, is huge. It is one of the number one skills that you can possibly have. Being able to actually convey points, and is at the heart of every single job role. It just is. Maths as well is quite important. Again, in a fair few job roles, but again, if you're not going into a role where it is strict on having a degree, if you want to be a biologist or you want to be a brain surgeon, you've got to go to university and study. So that is just, the way of the world, and it's never going to change. But for most job roles, your grades generally don't matter, do they?
No. And, it might even be silly, again, show the progression. You sometimes might want to say, when I first started year 7, I was getting like Fs, and now I'm getting Ds. Progression stands out. Rather than someone who's like getting an A and then still getting an A. Like, well, you've not really improved, have you? Whereas him, he was getting an F and now he's getting a D, so he's doing quite well.
That's potentially a good way to flip it once you've landed the interview process. It's a good one to come back with, actually. If they did ask you about your grades in the interview process, we don't care, but some businesses do care, and you've shown up for an interview and they ask about your grades, it's a good one to actually go with and say, well, look, I was never the most academic at school, but I started here and now I'm here. So moving on to the actual interview process, prepping for an interview, what's the first thing that comes into your mind that you would do to make sure that you are ready for that interview?
Bring as much, well, again, following up, doing even more in-depth research on the company and going with bullet points of things that you've researched about them, what they do, how you feel like you can help them, all the things that you've done in the past. So come with, like if you've done a previous job, come with Excel sheets of things that you're proud of, bits of work, any of that sort of stuff. I would over prepare for, keeping a binder or something along them lines, because the only person that ever did that with us got the job. So it definitely works. What do you reckon?
Well, taking the research part further, just have a look at their website and blogs if they've got any LinkedIn pages or posts. And have they won any awards? Has their boss won any awards? Has their management team won anything or done anything special? And again, you can use that because it just shows that you've taken the time and taken the initiative to actually put the effort into understanding their business. And again, it's a trick for salespeople. You know, one of the number one rules of sales is to almost ask questions and talk about your customer and talk about the person you're trying to sell to, because psychologically, every human wants to talk about themselves, how great they are, and not talk about how great you are. And so almost taking that sort of sales mindset towards it, it's speaking to the customer or company, that you're about to go and work for, and talk about them, talk about what you like about them and what they've done well and why you want to work there. But I think you mentioned it at the start of the episode. For God's sake, turn up looking sharp. I've had the amount of people, and I'm blown away by this, that have turned up, and I can get those nerves, and I can get it's all a bit, it can be quite daunting turning up for an interview. The amount of people I've had turn up stinking of BO. Mad. Like, I'm sat further away than we are at the minute, and I can smell them from across the table. And I'm thinking, have you not showered in 2-3 days? And you expect me to give you a job where you're going to be working within a team next to people on sort of desks in close proximity, smelling like that? Not happening. So look your best. Now, I'm not saying you need to be a supermodel to go and work in a marketing division. You don't. But turn up, make sure your shoes are clean, make sure your clothes aren't stained, make sure you smell good, you've had a haircut or your nails are clean. All of these things form the first impression that people are going to make of you. And genuinely, if you haven't got the wherewithal or even the bother to make sure your shoes are clean, make sure your nails are cut, make sure your hair's cut, make sure your clothes are clean, if you can't even have the bother to do that, turning up to an interview, they're just going to be thinking, right, well, he can't even look after himself, let alone the accounts that we're about to give him, or let alone the customers we're about to let him work with, or let alone the marketing information that we're about to share with him, or the personal company information. So huge turn up, and for God's sake, at least shower before you've got to an interview and use some bloody deodorant.
The best way to frame it is pretend you're kind of going on a date, really. If you were going and look at it from the other person's side, if you were to go on a date and you turned up with, tatty clothes and your breath smell, or if you were to be going on a date and the person that you went to go meet was that person and they didn't smell, would you want to go on a second date with them?
Not a chance. In fact, I'd have left very quickly.
Probably not.
Of the first one.
Yeah. It happened to me once, and it was like, it weren't ideal, I'll be honest. But anyway, and lo and behold, you don't see these people, and it's the same thing. You're building up, like we said, the first impression, and frame it as a date. Frame it that you're going to go and see the potential love of your life. A lot of people are going to be in that job potentially for longer than with most of the people in a relationship anyway, so you should probably prepare for that more.
It's a good point. And like you said, treating it like that, remember that, as I said again at the start, you're hiring them just as much as they're hiring you. So don't be on the back foot. Remember to go in with some of the questions and some of the good ones that I think, and it makes you stand out again as a potential candidate for a role, because it makes you seem like you've got options. And again, in the dating world, it's always better to seem like you've got options in life, because if you seem desperate and you're coming across as like, I really need this job, I've got nothing else, like, please help me. Please, I need it more than anything. People are just generally, I know it's sad to say, but they're looking at you and thinking, loser. They're thinking, why does nobody else want you?
Yeah.
There must be something wrong, because if nobody else wants you, then obviously you've just, like you said, you've immediately cast yourself aside.
But don't then go too far the other way, where we had it once where someone apparently the job was between us and MI5. They've got a load of options they did, and it was like they were going to be the next 007.
Yeah, again, you've got to be careful with things like that. But for me, generally, the thing to remember is asking questions and make sure you come across not desperate. So some of the good ones to ask is, what are some of the biggest targets that the company or goals that the company is currently working on? Because again, then you can frame that as to, well, I'm here to help you achieve them. So then you get that information. Another big one, you mentioned it earlier, what are the vision, mission, values of the business? So you actually understand who they are. What is their culture? You know, are they a young, open-minded team where everyone can get on and, you know, they're talking about sensitive topics? And if that's not for you, you've just avoided the whole sort of rigmarole of joining and starting a company, and you don't even know the company, like I said, that you're working for. So ask about their culture. Another big one is what makes them unique. You know, and you need to be asking these questions, the employer, put them on the spot, not in a threatening way, but you know, you've got to come across competent and asking these questions such as, you know, what makes you unique as a business? Because as I said, you're trying to hire them as much as they are you. And you will find yourself landing in a shit job if you haven't put the work in to actually understand where you're going to be employed. So what makes them unique? And if they can't answer that question as a business and they're just looking at you plain face, like, well, you know, we've got 10 years of experience, right? Well, so is everybody else. Right. Well, we're a family business. Yeah, there's loads of them. Oh, well, we specialize in this. Yeah, so does those a bit. So again, now you're looking at this company who, you know, they seem like the big I am trying to sort of put the role and put you on the spot. And if they can't answer simple questions, then you might even think, right, well, they're clearly not that good of a company to work for because they can't even tell you what makes them unique.
Yeah, it might even be, you know, is the progression. It shows, you know, enthusiasm. It shows that you want to, you know, try and climb up the ladder. And again, this is where asking the questions of an employer is so important, because if you're applying for a job, and some people do, they do want to stay in their job role. They want to apply, stay there, and then kind of just be friendly. And it's they don't need the job. It's a bit more of a social, but you know, something they want to do for extra money. And if you're that person and this company replies going, yeah, no, we're really going to be pushing you up the ladder, you know, we don't really want to keep you there, and, you know, X, Y, and Z, you're kind of going to go, well, actually, yeah, it's not really the right fit for me. I actually just want to kind of stay in that role. And then you kind of just have a grown-up conversation going on, well, it's not you, it's me.
Well, it's one of the biggest decisions that you're going to make in your life. And as I've said earlier about how important it is that you're not flitting around from job to job, you need to be dead certain that the business that you're going to work with, depending on how long you're going to be there, you need to make dead certain that it's going to be a good fit. Because if you just keep going from job to job, it just damages your CV and it just damages your working history for other future employers where you finally think, this is the Goldilocks one. This company is perfect for me. And now they're not going to employ you because you've spent too much time flitting from shit business to shit business. And it's a massive, massive decision to decide where you're going to work. So make sure you're actually doing everything we've said in this video and more. The final one, for me anyway, that I think is super important when you're going into a job interview, look at the salary and then understand whether you think that you're worth more, what you're currently worth. And again, imagine, like, I know it's an extreme example, but someone like Ronaldo who's going to join a new football team, you know, he's not going to go and join like Wrexham, even though they've climbed the tables, but he's not going to go join Wrexham for like, you know, 10 grand a week. It's just not going to happen because he's Cristiano Ronaldo. He knows his value. He knows his worth. He's put all this effort in to come across as a great candidate. He's proved his worth at other clubs. He knows where he's at. So make sure you've got a good understanding of your worth. Ask the question about salary. Ask the question about where you want to be. And if you're confident, even if, and I've had it genuinely, we advertised for a role for £40,000 for an accounts manager. And this guy applied for the role and he said, I want 55K. And I just looked at him, well, Why I'm not, I advertised for 40. Like, why would I give you 55? And then he just bullet points reasons why he's worth 55. And genuinely, I offered him the job until he started taking the piss on other things as well, saying, I also want to work from home and I also want this and I also want that. So he shot himself in the foot asking too much. But the reality was the job advert was advertised for 40K, but businesses want value. And the reality is, if I said somebody's advertising a sales role for 30 grand plus commission, and you might sort of say, I want 60 grand plus commission, and they'll go, we advertise for 30. And he'll say, look, I guarantee you that I'll net you a return of 500,000, but I want my 60 grand plus commission. A business would be stupid to say no. So understand your worth and understand what you actually want from a, monetary aspect. And if you can't get there straight away, put a plan in place and ask, like you said, what's the progression to be able to get you there?
Yeah. And the final one from me really is, and it's not always the easiest thing in the world if you're just not that type of person, but really try and just be as passionate as you can when you're speaking to the person, especially in person or on the phone. We hear it sometimes when the voicemails come through and it's like, oh yeah, my name's John and I really want the job and, it'd be really good to work for the team. And it's like,
you're hired.
It's like, John, just a bit more passion, please. More passion.
More passion, more energy, more passion.
And it's infectious, and we need, or employers definitely really want to see someone who, no matter if you're nervous, just try and just be as passionate as you can as you're talking about the role that you're looking for.
Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Please remember to like and subscribe. Please do not remain a part of the 80% of people that hate their jobs. Trust me, spending a third of your life in a job that you hate is a one-way ticket to depression, anxiety, and misery. Remember everything that we've spoke about in the video today, and drop a comment if you've been able to apply any of the advice that we've given to your own situation, because we'd love to hear some of the success stories. Again, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.